If you're an absolute beginner, you can begin doing these things today. And if you can already play the piano, but have no experience with improvising, these things will also work to help you. So all that said, let's get started. Number 1, commitment. Commit to a few weeks of daily practice dedicated to improvisation. Now, this is true for any new skill that you want to learn, right? Whether you are learning a new exercise program or you're learning a new language or whatever it is, it's going to take a period of time of commitment and consistency to be able to assimilate a new skill. And learning piano improvisation is no different. It's about establishing a practice over time so that it starts to become normal for you. So to really get you on the right path, I recommend about a half an hour a day for 6 to 8 weeks. This approach gives your mind and fingers the time and space to let these new practices settle in so you can internalize and become comfortable with them. And so improvising doesn't feel so foreign anymore. It starts to feel normal. And notice this is about practicing improvisation in particular, not just repeating things that you already know. So if you already know how to play some songs on the piano, it might be tempting to just revert back to playing those same things because they're just more comfortable. But to really learn how to improvise, you want to get the focus to be on stretching out of your comfort zone and playing things that are new. And this will help you become comfortable with playing things that you are uncomfortable with, if that makes sense. 2, technique. Strengthen your technique each day for just a few minutes by practicing exercises with a strong, steady approach using a metronome or a click. This is important, but it does not need to take a lot of time. Maybe even just 5 to 10 minutes a day will do. This is all about the quality of your practice of technical exercises, not how long you spend on it. You're going to get the most benefit the fastest when you practice with a metronome or a click and you play at an even tempo with a moderately strong touch. And do it this way. Play the exercises very slowly at first, using the click set to a nice slow tempo, and then once that becomes easy, then increase the speed of the click just slightly and then repeat. Once you get to a speed where you can't keep up and you start making mistakes, then back off on the tempo a little bit and take it back to where you can play it accurately again. Now, the way this helps your improvising is that it helps you sound confident and musical because it gives you control over your tone and your rhythmic timing, which will make you sound more musical and more professional overall. So practicing your technique in this way, just a few minutes every day, will help build that sense of control in your playing. 3, starting points. Memorize a few different, simple musical patterns from which you can use to stretch out and experiment with. This is what becomes improvisation. Now, one of the hardest parts of doing something creative is just getting started. Just like looking at a blank page if you're a writer, or a blank canvas if you're a painter, and then just getting a creative block about how to even start. Well, you should know that this is incredibly common, and then the best way to break that barrier, in this case, is to start with a little something that you've memorized. Maybe something like this. Or this. Or this. So if you build up a small repertoire of these musical starting points, is what I like to call them, you could just pick one of them out of your memory and just start playing it. And then from there, stretch out into your improvisation and start to play more spontaneously. So knowing in advance that you might have a creative block like this, you can avoid all that by just starting with a little musical pattern that you've already learned and memorized to get the ball rolling. 4 is risk. As you start playing outside of those patterns, be willing to take the risk of playing something that doesn't sound good to you right now. Another mental block that is common for someone who is starting to explore the world of piano improvisation is that constant fear that you're going to play something that sounds like it's wrong. And yes, it's true that if you're going out on a creative limb and stretching out and trying new things as you play, there's a risk that that will happen. So in this area, I have some good news and some bad news, but I'll give you the bad news first. The bad news is that yes, you will probably hit some bad notes as you start to improvise. So don't be shocked when that happens, because it definitely will. But if you really want to learn improvisation, it's important that you are willing to accept that risk that goes with it. But here's the good news. I have not just one, but 3 pieces of good news for you about accepting the risk that comes with improvising. 1, the more mistakes you make, the more you will learn how to not make those mistakes in the future. So don't give up, because you will get better at this over time. 2, mistakes usually sound much worse to you as the performer than they do to your audience. So if you make a mistake, you can act like it never happened or that you meant to play that, and then just get right back into a more familiar place on the instrument, and then just carry on, and most of your audience will probably never know. 3, a lot of mistakes can be avoided if you have a basic understanding of the key, the chord, and the scale that you are playing in that moment. Which brings me to the next thing. 5, theory. Learn a little about music theory, enough so that you can understand and name some of the structures that you are playing as you improvise. If the idea of learning a lot of music theory sounds academic, boring, or irrelevant to you, I get it. I studied and even taught music theory at a college level, so I do realize that theory can get into areas that are more abstract and less practical. So if that's the case for you, I also have some good news here. You do not have to have a deep understanding of music theory to improvise on the piano. You do not need to take a college course with a lot of advanced information that does not apply to what you're doing. But that said, you will absolutely do a huge favor for yourself if you learn a little theory. For example, what key that you're playing in, the chords you are playing, what function they have in the key, and the scales that best fit in the music that you are improvising with. So why is this valuable? Because this understanding lights up a path for you to follow in your improvisation. For example, it really helps you in your improvisation if you know that you are in the key of G major and currently playing an A minor chord, which is the 2 chord in that key. Because you know you can pick from any of these notes as you improvise, and you can have the confidence to know that these notes will work musically for you. So don't be afraid of learning a little music theory. A little knowledge will go a long way in helping your improvisation sound musical and confident. 6, practice. Practice improvising along with some other pre-existing music to get used to staying in time, listening, and responding to what's happening in the moment. I have found that even if you only ever plan on playing solo piano and never work with a group, it is still important and valuable to practice along with some kind of pre-existing music. Doing this has two really powerful effects on making you a better improviser. One, it holds you accountable to tempo. When you practice by yourself, it's very easy to lose a sense of tempo. You might slow down when you get to a part that's hard to play, or you might speed up when it gets easy to play. But playing along with pre-existing music holds you accountable to maintain a consistent sense of time. The other thing this does is forces you to listen more to what's happening outside of your own playing. And one of the most essential elements of improvising is being able to listen and respond in real time. So this is a really powerful way for you to build your own internal sense of rhythm and musical responsiveness. Now, if you have access to other musicians to jam with, great. But since most of the time your practicing will happen by yourself, the most efficient and effective way to practice improvisation is with pre-recorded audio tracks. And the nice thing is that these practice tracks are available all over the internet for free in a wide variety of musical styles and keys. I also have some of my own audio practice tracks available for practicing improvisation, but I'll talk more about that later. 7, audience. Get used to improvising in front of someone else. At first, it's best if that someone is supportive and safe, but then work your way up to improvise in front of a more general and a less forgiving audience. I think we could agree that the size and the makeup of your audience as you're improvising will have a pretty big impact on how much stress you feel. We've already talked about the risk involved with improvising, and those risks become more or less stressful depending on who your audience is. It's a good thing to push past your comfort zone and try improvising out in public, but I would not recommend that you start there. Start by improvising on your own, in private, and then maybe start to play a little bit for friends and family who are more supportive and forgiving, knowing that you are just learning. And gradually work your way out toward a more general audience as you feel ready. And then over time, you will be strengthening your ability to improvise music in the moment, but also recover from any bad moments that you have. And then as you continue to build out your audience, you'll eventually be able to do this in front of even the toughest of crowds. Now that, of course, is if that's something you even want to do. But even if all you ever do is just play at home for your own enjoyment, you will absolutely still benefit and become stronger as a musician by getting out there a little bit and improvising in front of an audience. So regardless of your performance ambitions or lack thereof, the 7 practices that I just gave you will work for you at every skill level. So, once you've committed to these practices and applied them consistently for even just a few weeks, you will see that the whole world of spontaneous musical creation has opened up for you. You'll discover that over a fairly short amount of time that you've built up the knowledge, the technique, and the confidence to be able to start reaping all the benefits of being an improviser, whether this is just for playing for your own enjoyment at home, playing for others in a more public setting, or being able to jam with friends in a band, or even as a creative tool to use to write your own music. Before I was able to improvise, I was one of those that learned piano from a traditional method where improvising was not included, encouraged, or even mentioned. So back then, when I would see other piano players sit down and spontaneously play like that, it just seemed like magic to me. I was amazed and intrigued, but I was also frustrated because I felt completely powerless to do that myself. And I had no idea how to get from where I was to where I wanted to be. So if that's you today, I want you to know that I've been there too, and this video is my way of taking all those things that I've learned over the years and many different experiences and break them down into bottom line essentials so that if you take this information and apply it, you will be able to learn to improvise on the piano much quicker and much more efficiently than I ever did. If you find this kind of teaching that I do on keyboard musicianship helpful, please do me a favor and like the video so that it will continue to help others who are looking for similar information, and ring the notification bell so that you won't miss the upcoming videos that I share on this channel. Now, if you're really serious about learning how to improvise and you want to dig in more and you want direct help maybe with the things that I discuss in this video, I do actually offer that help in a course called Piano Improv for Beginners. It's an 8-week course in which I will give you a new musical starting point each week, a short theory lesson that relates directly to that week, a technical exercise to build up your finger strength and your agility, and audio practice tracks to play along with each week, and direct support from me so that you can get any of your questions answered and get some useful feedback on your playing. So if that's something you're interested, click the link in the description to get started right away. Or if you just want to learn more about the course for now, you can also take the free introductory lesson. That link is also in the description. And if you have any thoughts or questions about what I've shared in this video, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.